The, these, Volume 3, Article 1, to the faithful, 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 and true, from partisan, political, and other issues. Article 1. These words are closely associated with laureatism, for example, Nobel laureatism. These words were thrown to me twice at Alpha Academy School, where I taught part-time advanced level economics to lower sixth form and CXC principles of accounts to a 10th grade. I work for a friend, Louis Green, who became also my social mentor. Then years after, when I became an assistant examiner for the Caribbean Examinations Council's Principles of Accounts. Firstly, at Teachers' Day, the May of 1987, when the Alpha Girls expressed to me, to the faithful and true applies to me. The second time occurred when my girlfriend, who became my wife, visited me around the sixth form block by the Alpha Boys' home, where on wearing a wrap on her head was termed Dread Girl, and it was told again to me, to the faithful and true. I must confess, as a child, when at Woolmer's Boys' School one day around Natty Corner, that is by the Science Lab and Girls' School, the head boy Milton Samuda and deputy head boy David Rowe one day came around there and read out professions of my classmates, then in sixth form. All were given a profession, from doctors, lawyers, engineers, scientists, naming a few, by the head boy and the deputy head boy. They handed out orally all professions to my classmates, friends. Then it came to me, called Peasy, and one asked, what profession will Peasy have? If I may remember distinctly that it was more David Rowe who was handing out the professions with approval from Milton Samuda. Then one of them said, none is left for Peasy. So the question was asked, what then shall Peasy be? And the answer was a laureate. A new word, philosophy and world it was then to me. And the brethren further said, David Rowe, maybe a Nobel laureate. This was how I was introduced to the world of Nobel laureate. Remember the Excelsior Community College ExCed graduation ceremony of 1989-90, when I was on the platform as a member of the lecturer's staff. Remember after Raymond Forrest having made a choice of wearing social science gown, and then the next gown was for me, and he turned to me and said, you are a doctor of literature because of the gown. Remember also when the General Secretary of the World Council of Churches was speaking, the guest speaker, he referred to Albert Einstein at Princeton University, a very famous Nobel laureate. He said that Albert Einstein said they asked him why he kept studying, and Albert Einstein's reply was that he carried the knowledge with the hope that one day it can be of benefit to him. I remember also when the General Secretary, if I'm not mistaken, slightly turned and looked at me. And I can remember Raymond Forrest sitting near or next to me said, that one was for me. I also remember when the General Secretary, who was a scholar at Princeton University, where Albert Einstein was professor, also said that Albert Einstein was grieved by the use of the atomic bomb for destructive purposes, because he intended, when he split the atom, that nuclear physics to be used for peaceful means. I felt personally gratified and elated to know from Sister Mitzi, a former graduate associate of mine, an announcer on Best FM, that the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Mr. Abiy, has been awarded the Nobel Laureate of 2019. Why? Therefore, I give thanks and feel gratified to know that in 2016 that I was offered to be the next land grant representative after Brother Solomon Wolf at Branch 43 meeting at Briggs Block Factory, and now and forever remote, can be associated or with the aroma personality reality, which may bring the words "to be faithful and true" closer to me, and drawing laureatism nearer. Article 2. A Missed Rhodes Scholar. Once upon a time, I attended Wilmer's Boys School way back in the 1970s. As a small boy, entering in from first form, now commonly referred to as 7th grade, we were at the front of the assembly. We were properly inducted in the traditional religion of society, as well as its social values and social attitudes. It was here where we were formally introduced to Rhodes Scholar, because older boys would be presented on the platform with the title Rhodes Scholar at the time. If my memory serves me right, I believe Ed Boy, Royce, and Jeffrey Mordecai, among others, were deemed Rhodes Scholars. However, in 1977, a strange appeal happened to me. Although I was doing Cambridge Advanced Level Economics 2 papers and Cambridge Advanced Level Geography, which comprised 3 papers: regional, practical, and physical geography. My other friends who did history and literature and economics confessed to me that A-level geography was more work than history and literature, 1 paper each. Today they have become lawyers and professional economists. When results came out, I was called to the headmaster's office, Mr. Morris, who said to me, "Dixon, you should have been the Rhodes Scholar," and he reiterated it. He further said that he had called Cambridge and complained of their unfair marking scheme, referring to the geography, and with particularly practical geography, where he said I had plotted the geographical adjustment in land surveying correctly, and only thing I had done was to open the last plotting to make the circle instead of closing it. He further said that I was given no marks at all, and he complained to Cambridge that even if I had been given a few marks for the near completion of the adjustment, I would still be the Rhodes Scholar. In those days, to get the grades I got in advanced level economics and general papers C grade was unheard of or not the norm. Most students got D and E passes yearly for advanced level, and therefore he would have been impressed with the grades in regional and physical as myself. Also the fact that I chided myself more knowledge then on geography than economics. And to add insult to the fire, I was undermatriculated for 3 years by the University of the West Indies, Mona, with the misrepresented qualification of 4 ordinary level subjects and advanced level economics and general papers, when the basic requirements were 5 O-level. When I left Women's Boys School in 1977, I had 8 ordinary level subjects and advanced level economics and general paper. But a former Woolmer's girlfriend of mine in Mr. Preston's office, who knew me also as the first student council president of Woolmer's Boys School, who knew me, although a Rastafari, still direct from Mr. Preston's office, who is my friend's, a former Woolmer's Boys Preston's father, took me in. This was the evening school of 1980. Let me also big up Mr. White, a St. George's College teacher, possibly maths, who met me on the steps of survey department and contacted the registrar of UWI, Mona. Third article, money. Whether money is defined by its functions, such as a medium of exchange and store of value, or by its motives, transaction and precautionary speculative, or by its characteristics of portability and principle of exclusion, there still remains a deeper question of what is money. A very, very early definition of money was coined by C.R.A. Pigou. Regarded as a pre-classicalist, Pigou responded to what is money as follows. Money is the abode of purchasing power. Abode mean house. Purchasing power qualifies itself. Since from the earliest time, mercantilism, the need for trade was inevitable, resting on the willingness and ability of people. The claim to Rastafari, Rastaman, that is God, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie, the richest man on the face of the earth, eternally, and that Haile Selassie controlled all monies, and thus Baba Janai, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie the First, is ratified and thus reinforced in a statement made to the Jamaican people in the Parliament in Gordon House, where he addressed the House of Parliament in Jamaica. Quotation, the relation in a broader sense between the people of Jamaica and the people of Ethiopia and Africa are deep and abiding. Abiding used as a verb substantiate the law and fact that the Rastaman claimed to Emperor Haile Selassie as the abode of purchasing power would so be fitting or be so fitting. Article 4. My hat. My hat. My hat. My hat became at extraordinary or extraordinary hat to the West. My hat was brought at Entoto, Menelik Kingdom in Ethiopia. In February to April of 2015, a four-party member of the Ethiopian World Federation with Federation Incorporated, Branch 43, visited Shashamane, Ethiopia. We were carried by Rastagasa up to Entoto, Menelik II Kingdom, where a little short man well dressed in navy blue suit and his hat, and who spoke English fluently, became our tour guide and mentor all throughout the tour of Emperor Menelik Palace, built in the 19th century before the Battle of Adwa. After the tour by this the little short man, the UN delegates escorts and the little short man apologize. After the tour by this the little short man, on our descent, a little way from where we met the little short man, we stopped and I purchased a hat not far away from where we spoke to the little short man. The touring party was Sister Jem Morrison, former international president from New York, USA, headquarters New York, New York. The late Brother Gerald Brissett, who was the chairman of Branch 43, who passed away in 2019, and Mr. Solomon Rankin Briggy, who hosted the meetings at his premises and who became the assistant treasurer, and myself the treasurer. However, Briggy is by nature a master builder and general contractor. I wrote it solely during my stay in Shashamane and was told I wore it solely during my stay in Shashamane and was told I resembled Menelik II. Tagasa calls me Menelik III. I wore it on re-entry to the USA by its capital, Washington, D.C., when all the UN delegates and escorts and chauffeurs came bearing country placard to me, as if I was a UN delegate. Someone said, "What airline is on the tarmac?" And the answer was Ethiopian Airlines. I wore it to my daughter's mother's home, where my daughter subsequently gave me a turban to wear. However, her son, who was my grandson, Desmond Clarence, did try the hat on. Also, when I was in Shishimane, Fitzroy Stewart's son tried my hat on as well at Bingi House. And wherever I go, children always try my hat on. Because of the overloaded suitcases in 2015, I left it by mistake at my daughter. In 2018, when I returned to my daughter in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, she returned the hat to me. Subsequently, I traveled it to Jamaica. Here in Jamaica, it had to be given its status, respect, by and large, big and small, except for one pastor who chose to say it was a monkey hat on my head. It became part of Fort Pierce Martin Luther King's Day Parade, at which myself and my son in his truck Chevrolet Avalanche transported the reenacted Miss Zora Orton, Erskine nurse, as well as a very famous writer whose cast was transported in a wheelchair in the back of my son's Chevrolet Avalanche on Martin Luther King's Day Parade 2020. Article 5. States of emergency, states of wars. Should soldiers walking, passing normally civilian communities like civil gardens with guns pointed and uncocked? Analyze the relation of a foe to the relation of the soldiers of the states of emergency. Thus, the question of motives must be an underlying causation factor. Civilian communities, although quarrel or domestic disputes always arise because of other factors such as lack of God, the greedy, nefarious intentions of the very few may show its ugly heads. However, from biblical times till now, to reduce these figures, the explicit use of armed forces soldiers have never by modern nation state. Should that be the case, the situation creates a failed state. However, here we see the level of aggression, state of war now leashed upon the people of Jamaica. Should there be human rights, then I should be entitled to my opinion. In my opinion, quality of force is and becomes an imperative evidential matter for states of war. Or else is it purely human sacrifice in the form of atrocities, murders, and eventually leading into genocide? Already cases of abuse appears to be over 5% of its population of its states of emergency, states of war. Next article, political systems and its communication. Political systems should have been the model for communication. Why? Because the lifeblood of the system, especially due to the law of gender, which allows communication of hunting and gathering societies to modern industrialized societies to distribute its goods and services. However, just like books largely and favorably, near absolutely accepts downward communication alone, so have become the Jamaican political system since its independence in 1962. The case contrast points to the fact that the governing party, such as the one today, the Labour Party, also should have had effective internal control, allowing for upward communication. Shouldn't it be your delegates and voters within the structure of internal control, upward communication supply you, Mr. Prime Minister? with accurate information from the communication, from the communities? Or is it the opposite? Make media pronouncements or of sorts, spending, squandering, and external imposition of the states of emergency are all conditions arising from leadership and management ineffectiveness of handling of political communications. Again, political systems are not only for political appointees. And ironically enough, one of the better lessons of the late Eddie Seaga was that anything serious, fatal, or that happens or about to, he would be driven down to Tivoli Gardens and his delegates would tell him.